Welcome, and thank you for joining for another whiskey review. Today, we're going to take a look at another compass box, Dustin. This time an old one, Hedonism, the Muse, blended grain Scotch whiskey. What can you tell us about it, my friend?
Yeah, so this is, again, one of their... Hedonism is, of course, John Glazer's grain whiskey that I think it was one of his first, maybe even been his first blend he started doing with Compass Box. And they're still, of course, making that today. And then they've done 3 that I can remember, special editions. This is the second in the series, first one I picked up. This one has some incredibly old grain whiskeys in here, pushing, I believe, 40 years old.
53.3.
Oh,
53. I'm sorry. I've literally looked up 4 ABV whiskeys before we got started. This one comes in at a huge 53.3. The long row 18 we're about to do comes in at 46%. So forgive me. We'll get to that.
Well, usually Compass Box on their malt, everything's 46, but when they use grain, they always go higher.
Yes, and usually very fun whiskeys with the Compass Boxes. So, matter of fact, I was just at one of my nephew's wedding, and I gave him one of the Compass Boxes, the No Name 3.
Great whiskey.
Hope that goes over well for everybody. They were Lafroig fans, so...
If you love Lafroig, you don't love that whiskey, you're dead to me.
All right, let's get into this one.
Ooh, really nutty at first. So I wasn't expecting that.
Nutty, but really nice sweetness. Big wallop of vanilla and honey coming right away from
Definitely there, but I'm just shocked because grain whiskeys for me are usually so vanilla icing forward, and that's like the secondary note. That kind of nuttiness is really right up there. I haven't been into this thing in a while.
It's been open a long time. Good time to get to it.
Yeah, this is probably a 2019 or 18 purchase.
I do remember it being a super low bottle count. A little bit of strawberries and grain. A slight cream note to it as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say cream is a big note. Like it's like heavy whipped cream. Mm-hmm. Like I used to put the whipping cream into like protein shakes to give it just kind of a thicker, richness thing, and that's kind of giving me little notes of that.
It's like a strawberry parfait almost. You get a little bit of whipped cream, a little bit, not quite ice cream, but a little bit of that icing. And the strawberries, really nice.
So I don't get these distinct notes too often, Mike, but I believe peach is the fruit note I'm getting here.
It's a little bit redder for me, but I can see a very strong peach schnapps almost.
Yeah.
Very alcoholic peach, hairy buffalo of peach.
You definitely do smell the 53%. This is definitely giving off pretty distinct alcohol notes.
I would say for a green whiskey or Irish whiskey or something like that, this smells pretty alcohol forward.
It really does. Now, mind you, again, 53s, you usually don't see grain whiskeys that high unless you're buying independent bottlers, which I guess technically Compass Box is.
There you know technically about it.
Yeah, but usually when I think of an independent bottler, I think of single casks, and that's obviously not what Compass Box does.
We'll get into this one, Dustin.
Compass Box, they're whiskey makers. They just make it differently. They buy other people's parts and they make it into something unique and different. Whereas, Cadenhead, they mostly just send out a bottle of great whiskey. Maybe they blend it with 2 barrels or 3. What do you got?
It's right. There's an alcohol grain punch, but initially super sweet as soon as it hit the palate initially, and then as soon as I swallowed mid palate and initial finish, super hardcore grain note. It does kind of get in those fruits and everything, but at first taste a twinge. You can definitely feel that 53%. It's definitely popping.
Man,
a little bit of cinnamon. Again, the fruits there. A little bit of crystallized icing. Man, it's got. I wasn't expecting that big of a punch. It's my first drink of the day.
It's the first drink of the day. It definitely kicked. I chose this to do first because of the profile being light, but I've forgotten how much of a kick the alcohol has on this one.
It's jumping.
All right, Mike, I am getting just straight up like heavy cream, or like whipped cream or something like that even, over like some kind of nut. Pralines and cream or something crazy like that.
I can see that.
Like just nuttiness. Then I'm picking up like fried ice cream, like the skin where it's been fried.
Yeah, that's good.
Picking that up like big time here.
Mexican ice cream. Mexican bread ice cream.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I'm thinking is Mexican ice cream. Like you're not really getting like distinct to the level of chocolate. It's more like toasted vanilla. There are probably some hints of cocoa or something, but it's limited.
Even down the long finish, it's more like you're at like kind of a burnt vanilla. Yeah, I'm not really getting any chocolate or cocoa notes on this right now at all.
It's incredibly simple and yet rich.
It's super rich. That cannot be understated. So, none of those notes that I say how full, how rich, how dense all these flavors are. It is very well rounded and rich.
Water's brought out more just like a nice toasted oak barrel,
along with more sweetness. Like it really kind of kicked up an icy note for me.
I get less of the vanilla, but I do get more sweetness, if that makes sense. Like it's
Ice Crisp with vanilla is just kind of the icing.
I mean, vanilla's still here. I'm not. You don't make grain whiskey that, but like the vanilla's toned back a little bit, and now it's like really nice, earthy, like pie crust and things like that. More fruitiness, and it is kind of transitioning from being peach to again maybe a little redder now. I still get up front initially like a peachy note, but it's like a soft like peach cobbler kind of a thing. Whew, very interesting.
Yeah, full of flavor. It's packed. And with water really brought up even more sugary sweetness on this one.
Oh yeah, water really made the upfront really pleasant, very sweet, exceptionally pleasant. Like I can't stress enough just how pleasant it is now with water. Then as it transitions, you get back to that nuttiness. You get a nice little grain spice. Definitely giving me kind of an Irish pot still kind of note there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can tell there's old whiskey in here, but it does it in a way that's not like your traditional like 30-year-old like dunnage warehouse kind of casks where you really pick up the heavy oaks. Instead, this you can tell that it's sucked in all of this sweetness from the oak cask, but it hasn't reached the point of being overly oaky, which is really special. Yeah,
it's not too oaky at all. We like oaky whiskey.
Yes.
We have a few comments about how to take oak or dissipate oak. There is no way. You just don't like oak. And this is not that, but I tell you what, there is an oak richness to it. It's a light oak note though. It's not dark. You said it's not dunnage. I'm agreeing with that from the standpoint of it's not a dark oak note at all. It's light.
I think there's probably one. I can't remember the blend on this one, guys. We'll have it down in the description. But I want to say there's maybe one sherry hogshead that was involved in this that was refilled, and then I think the rest was refilled bourbon. And you're really getting that refill cask really has done its job in not getting in the way of the grain, but imparting sweetness.
Yeah, but that oak note is kind of a bourbon vanilla oak.
I think there's very little sherry as a ratio goes. I think there's just one cask they had in here.
But when you said very pleasant, it is. I mean, and now with a little bit of water, bring it down. And to be fair, it's my first drink of the day, so it was a tad stinging.
Yeah.
The ABV, but I mean, there's no complaints about this whiskey. There's nothing off-putting about this whiskey whatsoever. It's a tad simple in its delivery, but what it does really, it's very full and very rich, but just in a few flavors.
I think if this is a subtle and nuanced whiskey, whereas it's not a overly complex and aggressive. It's very nuanced. So if you like very subtle, just a little this, a little that.
Different vanillas.
Yeah.
A few different honeys. A little bit dark honey, a little bit of lighter honey.
Well, that's a good note. I think I left the honey out.
I said it initially. But yeah, there's a spectrum of vanillas. There's a spectrum of honeys. There's a spectrum of your red to medium colored fruits, your peach to strawberry, if you will. It's a good one, Dustin.
It's very unique, very fun.
We haven't done a compass box in a while.
Yeah, this definitely just kind of showcases back when John Glazier had access to the best cask, what he could do on his high-end bottles. This is a $300 bottle, roughly.
Yeah, I can
retail.
See it. Yeah.
I don't have any problem with that price. I know there's old whiskey in here. There was a lot of cost that went into that. It's an incredible presentation. And I've been super happy to have it, but I probably wouldn't buy another one.
Yeah, so let's get to Whiskey Score to try to quantify this. If you would let me go first on this one.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to give this an 89. And I was even contemplating giving it a 90. Now, I haven't really been 90 excited about this as far as this review, as far as how I'm describing it, in my opinion. At least that's the way I feel about this. Maybe a little different. I go back and edit this. But, I really haven't been 90 excited. But going back to when you said, man, this is so rich, so deep. I mean, it is a very well thought out, well constructed whiskey that you can tell is quality. I haven't jumped over the moon about it 'cause it's a little bit simple as far as my palate, but I can tell this is a very good bottle of whiskey. 89 out of 100. Dustin, where you at?
Exactly the same. Well, I was going to say what you said almost verbatim. I was debating the 90 because I think...
Yeah, it's close.
I think it has the... I'll put it this way. If I loved grain whiskey more, and like grain whiskey was something I went to, this probably would be a 90. But it just leaves me a little not excited.
A little more.
Like, maybe if they'd used some more sherry casks, or maybe if they'd snuck a little peat in here somehow, or did something, put 2% Kalila in here just to...
It's a lot of sweetness.
Give it... Yeah, it's sweet on sweet on sweet with a little bit of spice. Yeah, it's a beautiful, masterful whiskey that just leaves me a little unexcited. But at the same time, if you like this kind of whiskey, you might be a 91 on this.
Here's the thing, you're right.
I can see it.
Our enthusiasm is super, super high, but when you said it's $300 a bottle, I thought that's about right. I mean, in today's market, it's probably a little bit more.
Yeah, today it could cost you more. I mean, it's really well done. It's just, this is not what excites me. This is not the kind of whiskey that got me into Scotch.
Sure. Well, I'm glad I got a chance to try it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not upset with the bottle. This is one of my first $300 range bottles I ever bought.
Anyway, those are our thoughts on Compass Box, Hedonism, the Muse. If you guys had a chance to try this one, let us know what you think. And next time, Dustin, what do we wish the folks?
Happy a woman on a label drinking.
See you then. Bye.